You ready?
Glad you told us to wait a minute.
And that's Ms. Kim?
All right.
Yeah, you got one.
Okay. Lee, will you lead us in prayer and pledge allegiance?
Yeah, please. Our precious Heavenly Father, thank you so much for allowing us to meet in openness the way we do here in the United States. Thank you for everything that you provide for us, because you are the great provider and provider of everything. Without you, we would be nothing. Now bless this meeting and everything that is done, and make sure it's pleasing in your sight and for the benefit of the CRA of Palatka, Florida. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need approval of minutes.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Campbell and second by Commissioner McCaskill. All in favor?
Aye.
Pass unanimously. Public comment. Oh, roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor Lawson Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Gorham,
Present.
Commissioner Campbell, Commissioner McCaskill.
Here.
Ms. Kemp, not present. Commissioner Rawls, not present. Mayor Hill is absent excused. So
Yeah.
you have 4 members present, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you. Public comment. We have somebody here for public comment.
You have a speaker card?
Yep. Deborah Daniels. Come to the front and give your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Deborah Daniels. I live at 14469 Northeast 210 Court Road in Salt Springs. I am the president of the Palatka Art League, and this is Laura, and she is the vice president of the Palatka Art League. We understand that Mr. Vito Russo sent in a paper for us on money that we would like to try to get some money and some help for the Tillman home. We are working really hard at getting it back in shape. We have had 2 windows already done. We need 3 or 4 more done. Latitudes did them for us, and they repaired them according to the specs that were needed for the house of this era. The front porch has now been repaired and painted, and the columns. The south side of the house had rotting boards, and they were done originally, I guess, 15 years ago with pine. We have now replaced them with the cypress again. Cypress? Cypress. And they have been replaced, they have been painted, and they have been done. The back part of the house on the south side is a messy area. The water comes down off, and I know that spouting is not of this era of this house, but it would do so much to have spouting put on the home to avoid more rotting in the future. And we are just looking for some help, because we're doing all that we can to repair the house and to get it back in shape, and it's looking good. And is there anything else you want to add, Laura?
The Tillman's located at 324 River Street. It has national and local historic status. We're trying to put it back together according to the rules and regulations for historic property. We're a nonprofit organization, and we don't have a lot of money. The house does need repainting. We did get an estimate in 2018. It was going to cost $31,000 to mildly prep and paint the home. We're looking to do that in the near future, but we have a tremendous lack of funds.
We did manage to get it termite under control, so it is now bug-free, so we can continue with repairs and try to maintain it and get it back in shape. Before I go, I'd like to cordially invite you all to our open house. I'm going to let you some flyers. and come and see the house. It's absolutely a beautiful home, and we're doing our best to get it back in shape with the help of the contractors in this area. Thank you.
We cannot do anything about it this time because it's not on the agenda, but
Yeah, I realize that, but we'd like to ask to have it put on the agenda for December.
all right.
Thank you.
Did any commissioner have anything they wanted?
No?
Anybody have
I'm
any?
very familiar with the state of the building. It's gonna take a while.
We passed the information on to our city manager to get on.
Thank you for letting us speak.
Yes, do you have a phone number that you can leave here on the back of this? Because I'm gonna need to get some more information from you. Basically, everything you just said. Or the agenda. I'll send you the.
Okay, thank you.
And the 31,000 she said was just for the painters?
31,000 is what, when did you get that estimate?
2018.
Okay, 2018 estimate.
If you're a good payer, you make between $60,000 and $80,000 a year, you're still under that's a three-story house.
I don't see walking trail, somebody here for the first walking trail. They're making a request. We'll come back to that.
Or, well, maybe
Oh,
you can
I'm
speak to
sorry.
that.
I thought you said parking trailer.
No, sorry.
I apologize. No, it's my fault.
I'm gonna my dog.
It's Monday and my ears aren't working. So, Mandy Tucker, CRA, City of Palatka. So the Bartram Frolic has put in an event cost share application. The event has already happened, but they were able to get their application to me in time for this meeting, but not the meeting that would have been prior to the September event. You'll also see in their packet that you got, they did turn in their post-event budget, which shows actual expenditures instead of estimated. In the past, we've given them full support. They've gotten 1 year so far to their support. They are a very good Class A. So does anybody have any questions about the application?
What part of the budget is this come out of?
The monies? There's a cost share budget line for the events.
How much is in that?
How much money do we have in the event?
$7,500 for fiscal year '20. That means we budgeted basically 3 festival at Class A's at $2,500, so they can have a max up to $2,500.
So are they asking this for the next Bartram Frolic or the one that happened in 19?
They're asking it for the one that happened in 19.
How much is in 19's budget? That's all.
We can't, we're not, that one's closed. We have to go to the new budget. Therefore, that's what I was gonna ask, if they're gonna, and since their event is in September, they may always come back to October to ask for retro. I'm not sure.
I think at this point they would have to, because you can't get 2 in 1 year.
It's the end of October, I mean September too. Right. So
Yeah.
they won't be able to request for next year until
After.
fiscal year.
After the
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah.
So they're asking for 30% of the, 33% of the total budget out. Is there any other groups that are looking for money?
I believe that I don't know exactly, but isn't it a maximum based on the class?
It's based on the
$2,500?
class.
Yeah.
It's based on the class, and there's limits as to what you can use that money
It's just
for.
up to, they might not, you know what I mean?
And that's something we've already discussed and approved.
It's already
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So we're,
And the other thing I'd like to remind you of the impact it does for us with bringing people into the area and exposing our city. It's
Well, we've given them a loan before, but that was separate. Before they've asked for a loan plus this. This
Okay.
year they just asked for this, they didn't ask for the loan.
okay.
Any comments from you? We have a motion to give it to them?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Anybody call for a question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. It passed. And thank them for all the work they've done and all the people they brought in here. They took a bunch of people, I think almost 700 kids out, second graders, out on the boat, and they didn't only do that, they educated them. They brought somebody in here to act as Bartram and somebody to act as the longboat Indian or
Long
whatever.
warrior.
The chief, so that they learned a lot about it and put on a good program for our kids for education. Okay, moving along. Incentives for a request. Manager.
Are you going to talk about Porch Fest?
Yes.
Want me to let you go first? Either way, so, John is going to talk about Porch Fest, representing
South Historic Neighborhood Association, 220 South 4th Street. I don't know if you have a copy of this itinerary budget.
Should be in the packet.
Okay. We're requesting $2,500. I believe that is 15% of the budget.
For the Porch Fest?
Yes.
So
Comments in the from
it's saying last year's event was a Class B event and it's expecting a Class A. What was the amount, the maximum amount allowable for a Class B event?
Last year, Class B, it's 1,500, but this year it's a Class A. And you did not have this program in place when they asked for the money last year, so they
Okay, so-
actually got more.
But I'm just looking at the letter and it said last year's event was a Class B, so it is expecting a Class A. So how, okay.
What was y'all's attendance last year?
It was,
Was it clicker?
150, 180, somewhere there.
150, 180 people, and I know it rained last year.
We didn't have bad weather, but we could have had better weather.
Yeah.
It was very successful.
Last
Drizzly,
So
but
they
successful.
were expecting
Still was
over
a
1,000.
good crowd.
It was a great event. I
It
think
was.
there were 5,000 people.
Yeah.
We've got 17 bands and 17 porches on board this year. Are there any questions I can answer?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments from Commissioner?
You good?
Question.
I have a question.
Yes.
What happens if it does not, if we approve for the 2,500 and then the event for, which we all pray that it's successful, but it doesn't reach the Class A category? Like, what do we do in that instance?
We were just discussing that, and almost the idea, like Bartram is retroactive, or it's reimbursement only. And the same way like last year when y'all were given the money and you turned in your invoices and expenditures and then they were paid. I would almost say, guarantee them a Class A max or a Class B max based on actual attendance and have somebody out there with a clicker. Because I want you to be a Class A. I loved the event.
Well, just
but-
like we just talked about how Bartram was a reimbursable expense, therefore we could see the actual expenditures and everything like that. We had kind of talked about potentially doing that, but right now I don't think that that's the way that it reads in the application.
It doesn't, that's why I
Right,
was.
therefore, but we do have to see receipts and that sort of thing in order to process that payment. So,
Either
And
way
it
will
would
be
change
covered,
the
right?
cost.
Either way will be covered.
It would, but
John, would that be
on the other hand, getting the full Class A amount
I don't
is then the
think,
marketing
produce
budget
receipts
to
and
get that many people here.
Right.
So I see
They are
why it is.
Absolutely.
Pretty much broke down from last year's.
and it
Would it
can
be a
also
burden
use
for you
on
guys to do it, work as a reimbursement?
Whatever works.
If I could modify my motion, who seconded?
I did.
You mind if I modify it?
No,
All right, so I'll modify it, say that we approve it, contingent upon making a reimbursement, and then we can take a look at the number of attendees.
Second.
So this is a deferred payment.
Contingent based on making a reimbursement based on attendance.
Based on attendance.
What happens if they don't have enough money to get it going?
But I
Yeah,
That's why I was asking if this going to be
We
a
do,
burden.
so we
Yeah,
have
it's
to see
gonna
the
be-
receipts.
Have to see receipts.
Cost restrictive because we're trying to get it off the ground here.
Yep.
And it was
Okay.
well attended last year for it to be the first
So-
time, and it was raining. It was well attended anyway, based on that.
So we need it up front to get it going.
Because you're showing $11,000, so your projected total expenditures of $11,000.
But I thought they were,
If you have
they
17
made profit.
porches at
I thought they made
$250,
profit
you
though.
have $425 that's automatically could be used as startup funds. So it's not as if they don't have any money, if I'm correct.
Did they not have it?
Well, this is, the $2,500 is covering only 15% of the,
And let me ask about the 17 porches. Although we have 17 porches, but have they been sponsored yet? I mean, maybe 17 of, you said they are already
You said we
sponsored?
have 17
no, we
sections.
have the vans and we have the porches. I'm done.
But you don't have the sponsorship, because
Correct.
people have the porches available, but have they received the sponsorship for it?
Because
That's the
we're
question.
still securing sponsorship.
Yeah.
Well, it's a thing of trust, and if they don't
Well,
make it this time,
we
then
can
won't
do
give them
whatever we
that
can to
much
help them
next
out.
time.
Just whatever to help them out, and we just move forward with that. So,
I'll restate the motion then that we approve it as written,
okay,
and we will monitor the attendance.
Sure.
second. Just whatever we can do to kind of help the process.
Any
You
other
wanted to-
comments?
There's a motion and a second.
Okay, we call for the motion second, all in favor?
Aye. And then they just monitor the progress of it. So,
Okay.
make it not so
It's
difficult.
passed unanimously,
How
so.
much are the sponsorships?
250 on
Porch.
all good? Thank you very much.
Mandy, you need to get back up here. Incentive program.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, we had 2 incentive program requests in the last month. One is 519 Kirby Street. Richard and Elizabeth Roberts, they've purchased it. They're asking for a residential rehabilitation grant. It would be 40% of $69,650 is their estimated, or about a $27,860 grant. Then our second request was for 418 River Street, which is Warren and Sue Wilhite. They just sent in a letter of inquiry for fund availability. There was no real amount listed in my letter for repairs due to the tree damage at their home. Both of these fall under the incentive programs that were paused while we redo the CRA plans. So I'm presenting them to y'all. It's a decision y'all have to make. The only thing that concerns me is as we move forward and redoing the plans, we need to make sure that whatever projects we have underway that are being paid for with TIF funds don't conflict with the plan in any way and fall under the priorities of the plan. And that we still have money budgeted after that plan is complete to do the priorities in the plan. So that's where we are. Does anybody have any questions on these now?
So these kind of telling us that we need to look at having the plan in place before we start back.
That would be,
Make sure we have appropriate funding
Yeah.
available before we.
Yeah.
well, yeah, until we get that plan in place, I would be very cautious on what we started because nothing happens quickly.
I thought we postponed all of these.
We did. We postponed everything but the recruitment grant and the commercial rehabilitation grant.
Right.
Yes,
So
but
why would we consider this now?
I'm not asking, I'm just telling you I got these requests because I feel like it's something y'all should know. I should let y'all know as a board when requests are made, whether I can honor them or not without your direction.
Okay.
So it's just more of a, hey, this happened.
Well, I think this, excuse me, but I think this goes back to whenever last month or last meeting when we discussed this, I asked whether the communities had been notified of the intention to not process these grants while we were waiting for the revised plan, that folks had not been notified. So people don't know that we've got a plan in development. They don't know that we're not supposed to be approving. I was concerned about the education then, and I think this reflects the lack of education to the affected parties. And to your point, what's the status of the plan?
that is one of our next items coming up, but I don't mind jumping ahead if y'all don't, since they're semi-related.
No, I don't know if it can require action tonight.
You wanna have a motion to table it until
I
we
make a
finish?
motion that we table
There's
the
nothing to table.
program request in case it did need action.
It's not on the agenda too.
But I'm just wanting to make sure that we are covered, just in case she was thinking that action was supposed to come out of it.
There's no action, we can just set a date. That would be my guess. It's not on the agenda to be.
But if you have a request for something, there needs to be a response to the request.
I'm
correct?
confused.
We're talking about number three, correct?
Number 3, which was on the agenda.
Right, and does it require any correct?
I just asked for direction in regard to these incentive requests.
Right, so which means we're gonna table this until our next meeting.
Yes.
So you do wanna table it to a time
Yes.
certain,
Yes.
a time certain, right?
Instead of next meeting, if we pushed it out until February, why don't we just take a look at holding everything up, because February is a drop deadline, correct, to have the plan ready to go?
February was the deadline for us to revisit whether or not things were going to stay suspended. We hope to have some more things in place by then. But at this point, we had two, I guess I should jump ahead to the update. We had two submittals, two proposals were submitted by different companies. An evaluation committee has been formed. We're reviewing them for compliance and for the evaluation criteria. As soon as the new city manager's on board, I would like to get his input in, and then also as a board, you might want to make the decision whether or not you want to have a special called meeting to hear a presentation from both companies before, even before the evaluation committee makes its recommendation.
I would think that what's germane is that we need to let these folks know that we are either going to accept or not accept a request. If we're going to accept it, they should be ranked in order they received to be reviewed in order. If we're going to be sitting on it for the next 3 to 4 months.
I can continue to put people in a line waiting, which is what I've already got. I don't mind doing that, but it was just, you needed to know they were coming in.
Nobody knows that they should. I mean, if everybody knew they shouldn't be submitting, then we wouldn't even be dealing with this right now. Just saying.
Right.
Seems like-
Well,
it doesn't seem like they do.
that goes back to Ms. Kemp's point right there, from the education standpoint. And I think, again, that's important. That the
It
people
is,
who are in the,
and I agree with you that it's very important. I think it's also important, and I really appreciate you being here from the South this evening, but I think it's very important that these groups send a representative to our meetings as well.
Are you aware of this?
Oh, the hold on the, yeah, just saying.
Did you tell your neighbors?
We have meetings, sometimes we have 20, 30 people, sometimes we have 3.
is there a way y'all can just do some information dissemination because it's not that large.
But you're holding meetings, right? And you're inviting
Monthly
your neighbors
meetings.
to, okay.
I think
So,
it's
I
to the
mean,
effect of what, even with us, we get it from the commission standpoint. We have a full city, so we're never gonna completely satisfy everyone. So, and I mean, our education and all of that is very important. But if they're having meetings within their district and the people aren't responding to their meetings that they're having at that, that time, I mean, what more can we do? That's the more direct of getting it out, of being a part of the local level. So,
And keep in mind, before we came and talked to y'all, we had open meetings. Jonathan and I sat here for over 2 hours one day, and we had advertised those meetings in the paper and sent out emails to the different boards saying, please come sit and meet with us. Tell us, what we can do, what we need to keep, what we need to get rid of. So it's not like we just decided and recommended this and it happened and they didn't know it was coming.
Okay.
I think
that's
the slippery slope is if you start taking applications now, you could end up with a pile of them. That might go up the next 10 years.
And then we might have a different application in 6 months.
Right.
So, I don't know, and that's why I wanted to bring it to
I
y'all.
thought we weren't going to accept them, to be honest with you. I
It
thought
was suspended.
it was suspended, yeah.
Maybe just need to get a note back to those people that have put in
And
applications.
tell them
Let
to
them
keep
know
an
it was
eye out
suspended.
Yeah.
when it reopens, that they can resubmit.
Yeah.
That'll be
The
a
application change and the
That's fair.
criteria changes.
Yeah.
I think that'll probably be the
Because
best
you
way to
have
handle
somebody
it,
that's
is
holding back because
to
you're
get
waiting.
a note out to them
Right.
and
And they might
thank them for
have
the
one.
application and say, as soon as we get the work done that we need to do, we'll be looking, you can come back and apply.
Okay, I can do that. Thank you.
As needed.
What about the other one from the Will Heights?
That was, to me, that was just a letter, and it's in here so that y'all can see it. So if it was after
Estimate of
the,
that tree damage?
it was not given to me. And as we move forward and look at, sorry, the Will Heights may be number 4. As we look, I had included, Betsy, is it not in,
in there.
is it in here?
It's not made the agenda package. She didn't drop it off until Friday.
The letter from Warren Wilhite?
Oh, no.
I scanned it in.
It's whatever is in the package is what you scanned in. Look in the very back, it's like the back 3 pages.
Yep, it shows pictures of stuff.
That's the other house.
There's a,
Unless it's,
there's a letter and 2 pictures. Look under, I put another tab there just so they can.
okay, thank you. That was my problem.
Yeah.
No, 4 is the, oh,
It's right here, it's the very, it's
It's not
not before the
4,
pictures.
it's under 3.
Dated
It's on
August
three.
30th.
it's not on this one.
Is it dated August 30th?
It's okay,
That's the
it's
letter.
okay. I just need to know this one.
Yeah.
I believe that you put it in all of them. I just can't find it in this one here.
I think that you
Says
just should
3B
do it for both
right
of them.
here. Mandy, look for 3B.
3B?
I
Right
see
here.
3, and I'm at the end of 3.
It's a 3B.
It's the page before tab.
Oh, thank you, I'm sorry. Okay, there we are. Yeah, so there was no estimate given to me. I do think as we move forward with the new plan and look at these incentive programs and ways we can improve them, I think it's fair, one thing that occurred to me today is we're not asking for proof of insurance on any of these homes that have been getting TIF-HIP programs at all. I think that that's something we need to ask about. Because if we're putting money into these properties, we need to make sure that they're insured against any losses. Yes, sir.
Can I make the request that you come up with a list of items that you deem we need to take a look at as a CRA board? Because you've come with a lot of recommendations that I think are very important or very things to cover our behinds. And I think we will be able to pull from that list those things and implement them in such a way if we deem as a board necessary.
Like a priority list.
Yes.
I can do that.
And then you won't have to guess, you'll know what you can and can't tell them, and they can move forward or backwards.
Their request was for emergency funding for the tree mitigation. Is that addressed at all in anything that's been done in the past by the CRA?
Not while I've been here. And
We have an emergency fund.
I've never heard of an emergency fund, so it's not, we don't have a line saying emergency fund, do we, Logan? No. We don't really have an emergency fund, you know. It could partially qualify as a, well, not anymore until we reestablish everything. In the past, the only program it would have fallen under would have been TIF-HIP. It couldn't have been residential rehabilitation because it's not vacant. But until we redefine those programs, we don't know where it might or might not be able to fall.
He said he recognized that the program was suspended for the HIP, but if there was an emergency fund that he could.
To my knowledge, there's not an emergency fund in any of the lines that we do projects out of. I'm only still here because I think I'm the next item as well.
You are.
Okay, Ms.
I just wanted to mention the past,
Come on up.
on 2 occasions specifically.
Roberta Guerrero, T. Dodge. On 2 occasions in the past, specifically the home improvement program was used when there were 2 homes in the district that had major roof leaks, and so they kind of were pushed up to the top of the line, so it became an emergency even though there was no emergency fund, and that did happen at 2 different addresses in the past. One house on Kirby and one on Emmett, who's known as a skate home, but it did happen.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So maybe notify him if and when it comes back.
And the previous program documents stated that any homes with active code violations would move to the top of the list. And I rechecked the most recent set of documents, and that's not in there anymore. So again, I'll work on that list of priorities of things we need to look at.
Thank you.
Okay, our next, you finished with that? Any other comment? Okay, We want an update on our RFP for our consultant for CRA.
Okay, as I just stated previously, but I'll do it again because from the record.
Four.
Four.
About the update
Maybe
on
I
the
want,
Yeah,
the Elks Club, we'll go back, the Elks.
Health insurance.
Oh, good, I get to sit down.
We had you up there.
That'll be for Dawn. I think that's the
Yeah.
number
I
4.
guess that,
city attorney.
Yeah.
so, the last meeting, we were directed, I was directed, staff was directed to inquire into the possibility of either collecting or offering an opinion as to why we wouldn't try to collect the portion of the building improvement grant that was given to the Elks Club, and on property that's located on South 3rd Street, which subsequently sold during the 5-year recapture period. So Alex Sharp is here. He, I guess, is a representative of the owner of the property. We did look into the situation, and basically what I found from the public records is this. Your building improvement grant, in this case, was granted, the grant document was signed in August of 2011. I don't know when the actual money was awarded or actual money was dispersed, but the grant agreement was signed in August of 11. That's an important date, and that's why I specified the total money that was approved was $10,512. It was $11,680 proposed improvement, with the recipient paying 10%, with a total amount authorized for grant money at $10,512. The schedule on the grant document provided that if this property was sold during the 5 years after the grant funds were dispersed, then a certain percentage of the grant funds would be recaptured. The relevant time frame, I believe, in this case, is between 3 and 4 years. One of the subcategories of that recapture explanation states that if it's between 3 to 4 years after grant funds are received, then 40% of the CRA funding is to be recaptured or repaid. The property did sell through a title company. Gullet Title apparently closed the transaction, and this was in the deed is dated January 5 of 2015. It was sold to Hale Real Estate, Inc. That time frame then, from August of 11 to January of 15, by my calculation, would put it in the 3 to 4 year span after the grant funds were dispersed. I spoke with Mr. Sharp, and he's here today, but it's my understanding that there was title insurance acquired by the purchaser. I had not seen the policy, and I probably should let Mr. Sharp speak to whether or not the grant at issue was an exception to coverage. The document, the building improvement grant document, was recorded. It wasn't recorded until December 12th of 2014, which was a few months after it was actually signed. I remember actually a few years after it was signed. It was August of 11 that it was actually signed, and it was recorded December 12th of 2014. I don't know why the delay, but it was recorded about 35 days or 36 days before the sale occurred. So it was of record as of the time the sale occurred by about a month and a few days. And I guess I won't speak to whether or not it was listed. It was discovered by the title insurance company. I haven't seen a policy, so I think I'm better advised not to speak to whether it was or wasn't discovered during their title search.
Mr. Sharp, you want to speak?
If you would like to inquire of me, I will, ma'am.
Take the hot seat. Raise your right hand.
Wait a long time to do that, haven't you?
Alex Sharp, 194 Darren Drive, Hollister, Florida.
Yeah, live in the city.
I got property here. I can't speak to what's in the title insurance either, Don. I did a lot of closings 4 years ago. The only thing I can say is I know this was for a roof for the Elks Club. I know what the provisions were put in place to do was to keep somebody from taking advantage of the CRA and flipping the property. And I would just like to point out to the board, well, of course I have an interest, but point out to the board that the Elks Club was stripped of their title and their charter, and it wasn't something that they did to defraud the CRA. They were forced to sell it, and the lodge was disbanded. I can say that I've done substantial improvement to the property since I bought it. I put 2 additional roofs on it, so I far exceeded the original grant money that the CRA gave them to put their roof on. I actually put 2 businesses in it as well. Unfortunately, they didn't make it. And as a private property now, we are paying into the CRA, back into the CRA. But I'm happy to answer any questions you want to ask.
But that was a struggle with us when it happened because it was a request from somebody who was not, the lodge was not paying any money into the CRA. And we went ahead and did it to keep the property viable. And we did not want to have to lose if the property was sold.
So do you mind if I speak? Can speak? So the question, as I understand it, was raised as a result of auditor inquiry. Is that wrong?
Yeah,
Correct.
it's a state
And
audit.
it's just, we
Yes.
just need direction.
And the auditor inquiry was, as I understand it, to either collect or move to collect the monies that were due, or offer an explanation as to why we weren't moving to collect the monies. One of the two. And so it wasn't my intent in informing the board of what I've just stated to advocate a position. I was simply stating where I think you are. And so direction from the board would be, where we would go. That would be our next step, direction from the board.
You said they have a private insurance, would that pay?
I'm guessing they have title insurance. You see, title insurance is not something that is recorded. It's not of record. I can't tell you for a fact whether they have title insurance or not. I am guessing, an educated guess, that since Gullett Title closed the transaction, and Alex was also kind enough to provide me with an email from Gullett, I am surmising from that email and from the fact that Gullett prepared the deed that there was title insurance, but that is a conclusion I've drawn. I don't have absolute fact or knowledge of that.
What would it take to find out if there's title insurance, number one, and if so, if we can make a claim against it?
An inquiry of either Hale Real Estate or Gullett Title. They're not obligated to respond, but an inquiry of those two would be the next step.
Because when the CRA document was recorded, didn't that technically place a lien on the property? Or it at least cloud the title?
In my opinion, it would have been something that a title company would have not ignored normally. The document itself was recorded, and it states in the document that if the recipient does not repay the grant funds, the CRA expressly reserves the right to file a lien in an amount determined by the schedule in 10A on the subject property of the grant, whose physical address is 114 South 3rd Street. So obviously you wouldn't know in what amount to file a lien until the sale occurred. Because the sale would be the triggering event that would require repayment. So I would have expected a title search to have revealed that document, and I would have expected it to have been listed as an item that was accepted from title coverage or that would be satisfied at closing. That's what I would have expected.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we pursue the recouping the money via the title insurance policy? If it's not available, then letter to the state and let that be our answer.
And
Then we've exhausted everything. I mean, we can't pay ourselves back.
And just to make sure everybody understands how that works, we don't have standing to make a claim against a title insurance company because title insurance is a contract between the company and the insured. The insured would be the buyer, the seller. So actually, our letter would be to Hale Real Estate, and if Hale Real Estate would then look to their insurance company for indemnification. So that's the way it would go if I were to write the letter.
And then if they say no, then we can tell Tallahassee we've exhausted all resources.
Who received the proceeds from the sale?
The National Elks Lodge.
Well, shouldn't it have been paid by the National Elks Lodge when you paid them? Shouldn't they have been the party to reimburse the city?
I'm not sure anybody was aware that document had been recorded. And I'm not speaking illy of anybody that researched it.
I'm not asking you necessarily, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm asking the group, shouldn't the National Elks,
the-
I mean, that was the question I asked last time, who got the proceeds?
Who was the
National
agreement? Was the agreement between CRA and National Elks or CRA and local Elks?
Yeah, but they got the proceeds of the sale. They got the benefit of the sale
I don't know
where
if
the
it-
money had been loaned previously.
The name on the grant agreement was Palatka Elks Lodge number 1232. Now, how the Elks Lodge is set up, I can't tell you. The recipient, on behalf of the recipient, signatures were from Otha E. Letty Collins, Jr., Chairman, Board of Trustees, and I may be mispronounced. Oh, I'm sorry, Otha E. parentheses Eddie Collins Jr. So that's Eddie Collins Jr., who was the Chairman of the Board of Trustees. He signed on behalf of the recipient.
But the person that got the money, we can't go to them and at least make an appeal for the money since it was loaned in good faith? Because they never put any money into the CRA?
I could certainly reach out to whomever you'd like. The Gullet Title filed an affidavit, which I assume was simultaneous with the closing. It's dated August 7th, 2015, and the deed was dated January
15th is when it sold.
January 7th, 2015, and the deed is January 5th, 2015, and the affidavit is dissolution of the corporation or dissolution of the entity Palatka Elks Lodge. So it's saying that it's dissolved. So I would be looking to, I don't know if their money went to the National Benevolent Association, it might have, but I could certainly write a letter there, and I can.
You wrote a check to somebody.
Yes. I did. Yes, ma'am, a big one.
Yeah, you wrote a check to somebody, and that somebody got.
It was my understanding that those civic groups or the lodges, they all answer to a
Parent company.
just like Rotary. And those are the people that got the proceeds from the sale. They took the building back from the local Elks because the local Elks actually didn't physically. I don't know how they came up with it, but they took the money.
Now, I think they got the money, we should see if they man up and do what they should.
I mean, at the end of the day, we just have to respond to the state of Florida.
Because that's, yeah, they're looking for the response to see how.
And the only thing.
It won't hurt to ask for it.
No.
If they turn us down,
then that's when the explanation comes in.
Yep.
And the only caveat I would say is the Elks Club did not intend on to defraud the CRA. The local Elks Club did not intend on doing that. They've been here for 60, 70, 80 years. I think
I don't think you think that, but we took money that other people had paid in taxes, you, me, and everybody else.
Yes, we have.
Okay. And they used it in good faith, because we gave it to them in good faith to save it. Then this organization should realize that they have some responsibility to take care of their parent. And if your child messed up, somebody, you got the money, somebody gonna come to you for it.
I think they're doing it good. I think they're.
So I would like for us to have a motion to ask our attorney to approach the person he wrote the check to.
I can help Alice out. There definitely was title insurance issued because I'm reading the affidavit and it indicates the affidavit is made to induce West Corland Title Insurance Company and Gillett Title of Interlochen Inc. to insure title of the real property. So I'm pretty safe in believing there was a title insurance policy issued.
I usually generally get title insurance when I buy something done.
You could have saved me all that if you just said that.
Well,
I didn't know if you wanted me to chime in or not. I'm not sure we're in an adversarial position right now.
Did you get title insurance on the purchase, Alex?
I did, sir.
Thank you.
And I'm not opposed to you guys sending a letter to Gullet Title to see what the underwriters wish to say about the matter at
I
all.
think Ms. Brown just made a motion.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
for
she-
no, I
second.
can't.
She can't, she has to
Can I ask for
Just say so
somebody?
moved.
So
do
moved.
both of them?
Second.
So
There you
moved.
All right, we had a motion and a second.
Motion is to have
Mr. Holmes in gear.
Mr. Holmes in gear to approach the title insurance company to
And not the
attempt to
national
reclaim,
health.
to reclaim the funds that was dispersed.
You
I would
don't, you don't want to
explore
send
all
one to the national elks too to find out who would do it?
And the subsequent to the national.
For both.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say both.
Okay, the motion is to
Title insurance as well as the national.
see if we can reimburse it and go back into the CRA fund.
Absolutely.
Everybody understand?
So what,
All in favor?
who made those?
Well,
Forum, who second?
was.
Tammy?
Oh, it was Borum.
No, I just made the
Borum.
motion.
I made
And
the
I
motion.
said, and you seconded it, okay.
And Alex, I didn't consider us to be an adversarial posture at this point either.
Not yet. It's always a pleasure to come before y'all. May I be excused?
You just got through swearing in, so we got you.
If the answer comes back no, can we just go ahead and put this to bed and write the letter to the
But let's
state?
wait till we get
No,
what we see get back.
okay, yeah.
Let's wait
This
till we see
can't
what
just be
gets
kicked
back.
so long.
Because I think you pay a bunch of taxes. People pay their taxes and they should be the ones getting the benefit of it.
Right.
And,
And it's a reputable organization.
yes,
I
it's
hope
a
they
big,
do the right
it's a
thing.
big company. They got probably deep pockets, or if they don't, they can find it.
All right.
Okay, Mandy's back to bring us up to date on.
Okay, so the CRA Consulting Services RFP number 2019-16. So we received 2 submissions back in September. One was Dietrich Planning out of Jacksonville, and one was S&ME Inc. out of Tampa. They also have offices in Orlando, and they have offices of one of their subcontractors out of Gainesville. So we've put a committee together right now. It is myself and Mr. Mims. I'm hoping to ask the new city manager to be the 3rd member of that committee. We're all reviewing the submittals right now and working towards it. Are there any questions?
Well, you know, Ms. Dietrich has been with us over a period of years.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else you need to say about it?
No, she's very familiar with our stuff. That's all I have.
Inside the agenda, you have a copy of the RFP that was put out, and in it, it outlines very specific criteria. So, yes, ma'am. And that's what we judge them on.
Well, we're down to finance, I guess. Is that any other questions, anything else you want to say about can we move it on to finance?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay.
You have an expenditure and revenue report through September 2019, which is the end of our fiscal year. There are going to be some things that are not posted as we're working through closing and year-end transfers and reconciliations. However, for the most part, with this being a small fund, it's pretty much closed. As we do those year-end transfers, and I think there's only maybe like 4 of them, maybe 2 of them that haven't been done, you're going to see the numbers change a bit. However, I built the budget on those projected figures, so we will have to do budget amendments for some of these carry forward projects where we had some encumbrances in the HIP programs that they're not finished. And so you will be seeing a budget amendment come before you at some point when we reconcile all of those. Other than that, we start our audit next week. Our auditors will be here, and so we're just moving right along.
I thought y'all just got through it all.
We did. I feel the same way. Yeah, we're just moving through it. So, like I said, we'll be bringing some of those carry forward, I believe, HIP programs in all 3 districts. There's a residential rehab that was encumbered but not claimed at this point, or not closed out, I should say. And then there's where we transferred or we accepted to purchase the sign that hasn't been bought yet. So you'll see that. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have reports.
I should just sit here.
You just should stand right there.
Okay, so as Logan stated, there were 2 TIF HIPs that have not finished out. They were both scheduled well before the end of the last fiscal year, but we had a lot of rain, weather, things happen. We understand that, especially with roofs and chimney caps. So there's a roof scheduled at 620 River Street. I'm expecting it to start any day. Every time I call, we'll try to get there next week. So, and usually they're pretty spot on. That project cost is $14,199. The CRA share of that is $12,099.50. The homeowner has paid their portion already. And then at 819 Laurel Street, we had a paint job it's finished. It finished right at 9:30. I am in the process of trying to contact the homeowner. I've sent emails and texts and phone calls. I'm thinking that maybe she's out of town. I left a note in her mailbox today. As soon as she signs off on that acceptance of work, we can do a PO request, sign it in, and get that contractor paid.
I spoke with her for a little while.
Lee wants to.
If I may, and I haven't apologized, I had a chance to talk to you, but right as I was walking in here, I got a phone call from her.
Oh, good. What did she say?
She is very upset at the quality of the job that was done, unsatisfied, and is asking for her money back until the project is done correctly like they like to. And I have not seen it. I just on a phone call.
I think maybe tomorrow morning you and I should go there and walk around the house.
Well, I told her I couldn't give an answer a while ago that we were having a meeting. I discussed it with somebody tonight.
I'm just glad she called somebody because honestly, I've been trying to get in touch with her for 2.5 weeks.
Anyhow, she
Okay, good.
on the contractor back and how many.
I'll get in touch with you.
You know the story as good as I do.
I'll get in touch with you tomorrow morning and we'll let her know we're going to walk around the outside of her house.
Okay.
She said she can't make it around the house. She can't physically make it around the house based on her current condition. So she can only see a portion of it, but she just wasn't really pleased with some of the work that were done that she's able to see.
Okay.
And she said that HIP program is that?
Yes.
Home improvement program.
Yes.
You're right.
So,
Yes.
Any other questions?
What was the total cost?
Anything else?
14,000.
$14,750 was the winning
What's the
bid.
address?
819 Laurel Street. It's a
It's right in
one-story,
the middle of the, the middle of the block.
right across from the ball.
Right across from where?
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Bisnow.
Yep.
Yes.
That was the $15,000 paint job?
That was the best price I got.
Told you.
She had very specific scope of work that she wrote out, and that's what they bid it on.
If she's not happy, she doesn't need to pay.
I think that someone who has, maybe a third party could make a determination, because this is not the first time I've had a homeowner not want to pay or want work for free or want the job redone against a contractor who, to their knowledge, fulfilled what they said they would do for the price. So, if you direct me to get 2 or 3 guys that are familiar with construction and painting, that aren't involved, and walk around with us, like me taking Mr. Garner and letting him see it. You know, I'd be more than happy to take anybody and let them walk around and let them help weigh in, because it's very hard for me to complete these projects when I have to fight to get the contractors paid. Now, when they don't do it right, I'm all for them not getting paid until it's fixed. But there's a line.
Yeah, what's
The $3,000 she's asking back, is she paid somebody?
She had to give me her percentage
Oh, okay.
before we could start the job.
Oh.
Now, when it took a month to schedule, she wanted me to return her money until the work started. But I can't order a PO from Logan until the homeowner has paid.
Did they get, was a building permit pulled, a roofing permit pulled?
It was a paint job.
A paint job?
Yeah.
It was painting, so it doesn't.
And that's really subjective, because if you don't go in there and measure the paint thickness as it's going on, once it cures, you can't do anything. Paint's paint.
I would like to hear exactly what her problems are with it. Yeah.
Anybody else?
We'll follow up on this.
All right. Our small business.
Before I finish, do y'all want to hear the brief update I have on the sign?
yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so, turns out these signs are more expensive than we originally thought they were. I have one quote. It is the same company that did the Chamber of Commerce. If we want a double-sided single face, which means that you can see it from either direction, but it's going to show the same image on both sides at a time. Based on the locations we talked about putting it and the speed traveled on Reed Street, they suggested either a 4-foot 8-inch by 8-foot 1-inch or a 3-foot 8-inch by 8-foot 1-inch sign. We would want the sign, of course, we would want it in a nice cabinet with the city of Palatka at the top and the base, so that we could attach brick facing to the case so that it would blend in with the historic districts, basically. The digital board alone runs about $25,848. That's just the board, no installation. Wow. The cabinet, they're estimating about $16,550, and that's just a hardy board base with the encasement on top. So roughly, we're looking at about $43,000. So I do believe we're going to have to take this one out to bid if y'all still want a quality sign like that. I think if you don't have the quality that y'all want, it's not going to look right. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It makes sense. Thanks for the total cost. But
You're welcome.
How about a historic sign?
Yeah. Well, you know, we've been doing those all over town.
we can get somebody to go out there.
How much have you put aside? How much did you think?
How much did we have put
We
aside for that?
budgeted 35.
Oh, so about 11,000 more.
Does that include installation? I heard you say cabinet, but does that include installation?
That does include installing the digital board inside that cabinet. It does not include the material, the brickwork at the bottom.
Or the electrical that's necessary to connect, or any of that?
It would probably install it just into the cabinet. I imagine we would have to do electrical to the cabinet from the pole. We used to do that in-house. Don't know if we still will.
We got an
Well, you're required to pull a permit for it.
Will require,
It
it
does.
will.
I'm
And
dead
that
serious.
permit's going to require electrical plans from an engineer.
And structural plans.
Yeah, so in structural plans, so there's more
be
costs
limited.
there than just that
There's hurricane
43,000.
related
Yeah,
designs.
You better budget 50.
at least.
50.
I'd say 60, just to be safe.
You got a sample of a sign here.
You can't even live in it, does it?
And
I
we talking
actually,
about
I have a
Or
design
drive it.
plan.
maintenance.
The company that gave me these quotes, they're working on just a basic design drawing plan for us so that we can see it. It's not ready yet. The gentleman went on vacation. I will.
Do you all want to go out for bid? Think about going out for bid again, or what?
Yeah, I'll probably have to give this report again in 2 months, but since it came up, I wanted y'all to know what was going on as a
With
board.
the threshold, we'll have to go out to bid.
If we still want a sign, we're gonna have to go out to bid.
Yeah.
So we're gonna crack that threshold no matter what.
So we might as well go on to bid.
I did contact the college.
Oh, wow.
And when the college got their
this-
sign, it went out to bid.
this.
Right, because, yeah, we'll have to with the threshold.
Commissioner Rawls got a little something he can share with us about
Yeah, we
an
got-
existing sign that's already out there.
We're looking at 60,000 to replace the EOC sign on Highway 19, and we already have a cabinet.
That's only to replace it.
Yeah, right.
How much?
60,000.
So I have a basic question about
Yes,
the
ma'am.
sign. So if you put it in the downtown district, is the funding would have to come out of the downtown district's CRA funds, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there statutory limitations or requirements that that sign only advertise events that are happening in the downtown district because it's the downtown money that paid for that sign?
That's a good question.
Because I know how some tax funding applications go, and if this is in line with the traditional tax funding, that the area that pays for it is the area that benefits. No other areas can benefit.
I am not a lawyer. However,
I'm sitting next to one.
You slept
yes,
You
are.
in last night.
However, all of the training classes that I've had as far as projects and funds and where they can come and go from, always, in what they told me, goes back to the plan and that you should always consult your city attorney.
That's what I learned too.
So, you know, there's no real answer.
You know, what if you marketed something at the ball field on the west side of town and people stay at the hotel downtown? You know, you get deep in the weeds on that.
Yeah.
It's a
I
very
think it's
good
pretty
question.
easy when you're talking about spending funds on something like a building rehab. But I think it's a little bit greater question when you're talking about something in the nature of marketing or advertisement. So until you decide that you really want to do it, I don't know that I really want to give you a specific answer about whether you can. Right now what I'm hearing is there isn't a lot of enthusiasm for spending $65,000 for a flashing sign, but if I'm wrong about that, then I'll give you a specific answer.
How long did it take y'all to replace that one when you
Because we
purchased it?
haven't done
They
it.
got
We said we're going to do
Looking
it.
at it,
We got the money.
Your code does have restrictions on signs that are with moving print, and that has to do with the frequency of the print, travel, and that kind of thing. But it's my understanding that in general, that kind of sign can be allowed, but there are restrictions on all sorts of. The print, travel, and that kind of thing. But it's my understanding that in general, that kind of sign can be allowed, but there are restrictions on all sorts of things, including the light emission, the intensity, and all sorts of other things.
$5,000 a year.
Are there any other questions for me?
Thank you.
So, did she know what y'all wanted to do? Okay. Moving on.
Hunting.
Thank you.
Small business development.
Good evening, everybody. Cheryl Lynch, 900 St. John's Avenue. You've got a full year report in front of you. I'm here to answer any questions. There was another success story. The Coleys bought their building, so they're here to stay.
All right.
Didn't you,
I don't have a report, but thank you for that.
didn't you recently help somebody close a loan?
That'll be in the next report.
Oh,
That'll
he
be the
spilled the
next
beans.
report.
Just
Yeah.
tip the beans over.
I do want to remind you, though, that these numbers are not fully complete, that if the client filled out their home address and not their business address, so there are some missing numbers that are not captured in this report.
Anything else from y'all want to do?
Thanks for the good
Thank you
news.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We like to have your company in the room since it's so full.
Wait, whatever. Why don't you tell us about that one Dutch that you brought in from out of town? Did that go anywhere? Or?
Not
Doing his research.
Yeah, I can tell you personally that she brings a lot of business to town that we wouldn't otherwise
Absolutely.
have.
Yeah. Her.
Shit, Miss Lynch.
I thought you were talking about.
No, her.
Miss
That's a
Lynch.
lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay, no, anybody from the north side? Anybody from the south side?
Wow.
Okay. Historical district? Yeah, I guess that means we to the end of this
Revitalized
one.
Historic Palatka is here.
Huh? Come on.
Ronnie Gray, 118 Dodge, for Revitalized Historic Palatka. We had a successful wine stroll during the Bartram Frolic, great turnout. This Saturday, from 1 to 6, is the Palatka Craft Beer Festival in partnership with the Palatka Young Professionals. Second Tuesday in November will be on November 12th, will be our downtown business celebration, and it's going to be Ashley Oliver's anniversary, a little belatedly. First Saturday again in November, November 2nd, will be our downtown cleanup day, and the Sunrise Rotary is partnering with us, and we're going to be installing the rest of the signage and doing some cleanups before the holiday season. Saturday, November 9th, Murals and Music Concert Series. The Murals Committee and RHP will have a music concert from the Vets Memorial Mural. On Saturday, November 30th, we're going to do a small business Saturday shop stroll. And we're also looking at some possible pop-up holiday shops with a couple of business owners that have vacant tenant-ready buildings to get some vendors in there, at least for November and December, to have less empty buildings. The Trail Town Committee is also working at different things. We're organizing a symposium on complete streets and pedestrian-friendly communities, possibly with Victor Dover or Dan Butner and Dan Burton from the Blue Zones as our presenters. They're nationally known, and we're looking forward to that. That's it.
Quick thing there, you gave a lot of good information.
I'll type it up and send it to y'all.
Yes,
I just didn't have time today, sorry.
Right, I understand that, but we're gonna be going to the League of Cities dinner on Thursday. If you have
I'll
something
get it to
that
you by tomorrow.
yeah, if you got something like we can pass out,
I will.
that we can give to them, and they can also draw some people here with that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
You send that to me? Yes, I
I gotta get it.
Any more business, anybody have a comment or anything they want to say? Now, I got one thing I want to tell you. I got a notice in my door today that my water gonna be cut off on the 18th for them to connect water lines to 9th Street. I think y'all might want to know that. We are adjourned.